I'm Seán Byam from Byam's Tree Service. I've developed techniques to make the job easier and more efficient to save energy. You know, anytime using a pole saw, the higher up you go, the harder it is to apply pressure on the higher limb. What I do is I leave sometimes stubs or lower limbs to go after the higher limbs that I have to cut first. Then I work my way down. I utilize those lower limbs as a fulcrum point to apply pressure up above. So I'm going to give you a quick demonstration and how that works. So, I'll just cut this one limb to show you the normal way. And so now, that was a pretty small limb, and white pine is pretty brittle. But what I want to do is show you now, that's quite a bit bigger limb, and I'm going to use this lower stub as a fulcrum point. And now I'll just cut. Sometimes you need to look how your angle is. And now I'll just simply use this lower limb as a fulcrum point. I probably could have added another section just to make my footing a little bit better, but it seemed to work pretty good. Another thing I wanted to mention about this saw technique is that you can also apply a compression cut first, so you don't tear the bark into the trunk. This particular tree that I trimmed, it was actually coming down, so it didn't matter at that point if it was going to rip into the trunk. But to simply make the undercut would be, you can actually go on the opposite side of that stub or limb and utilize that again as that fulcrum point and proceed to make your cut. Then you can go on the opposite side of that limb or stub and do what I showed you earlier. Because the higher up you go, sometimes you might not have the extensions for your pole saw to work, and so you're more straight up and down, so it's very hard to apply that pressure. But with these lower limbs or stubs, they can actually apply a lot more pressure. So you just want to apply enough pressure so you're not wrenching on your pole saw, but enough to apply the sufficient amount of pressure to make your cut. Another thing that works good with your pole saw is if you're, let's say you got a scenario where you got a tree that's leaning a lot and it's got those wood fibers are under a great deal of stress. Most arborists know how to approach this tree with your traditional face notch, and then instead of making that back cut, you plunge cut through or a bore cut and leave what they call a back strap or trigger release. And it's just a small portion of wood on the back side that can literally hold the whole tree up, and with just a little bit of wood remaining, because it's trying to actually pull the wood apart so it's very strong. Let's say you don't want to be there with the chainsaw. You really don't want to be there while the tree goes. So what you simply do is prepare the tree, leave that back strap, walk away with your chainsaw, come back with pole saw. Then what you can do is, finish that back strap off. Now, if you need to apply the pressure like I showed you before, you can actually do that by, if there happens to be another tree or sapling nearby, or even maybe if there's not anything there, you can actually, place a stake in the ground, pound a little stake in the ground, so that way you can use that as a fulcrum point to apply the pressure to cut that back strap. That way you're not in danger, and you're far away from when the tree is released. Hopefully these little tips will help you, and thank you very much for watching. Take care.